Hearing any, John, who's with us electronically?
Mr. President, nobody is.
What? For too long, sorry. Okay. Not hearing anything. Welcome, ladies. Please make yourselves comfortable. I'd like to move. To approve the agenda. We don't, Ms. Lori, any of these. It's second, that's a moved and seconded.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Aye. Aye. The agenda is approved. Let's move to the public forum. Anybody wishing to speak? You know who you all are. It's very short. See what's going on? Not hearing anything from anybody? Okay, let's move on to the consent calendar. Do the managers have any comments or concerns with any of the items on our consent calendar? Yes, Rick,
2025 or 2025-24,
which is,
I.
Aye.
And it's moral comment.
Okay, we can go ahead and fold that.
Okay.
We'll do that. Are there any others? Bill?
No, nothing for me.
Okay. Vice President Pereira? any-
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, very good. I don't have any other items, so I would like to go ahead and make a motion to approve the consent calendar without item I from this 2025-24.
Second.
Moved and seconded.
Aye.
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 Hi.
It is approved. Let's immediately move to item I. Rick?
Just a comment. I was pleased when I opened up this item to see the storm storage area is nicely displayed on the first map. Thought that was a great move forward in terms of
Okay.
getting some clarity on where people are storing snow and the impact that has on the amount of chloride needed to keep the area clear. I did, however, want to say that I think a couple of questions arose for me in terms of, okay, I didn't see contour lines, so we know which way the water is draining, as well as where the drains are. As a couple of pieces of information, I think the way it's worded in at least some of the suggested site-specific conditions, it talks about wanting to know how to reduce, how you expect to reduce the amount of chloride needed, by the way you store the snow. And I thought that was clear information there, but it's a matter, I think, an educational type of thing for people to understand what we're after. We're not just adding this to add conditions. It's really a matter of how do we get people to understand it and to be able to have an impact on how much salt is being applied.
Okay.
So,
President Marchand?
Yes, sir.
Just by that, there are contours on the following sheet.
yeah. My idea though is that if you have it all in one,
Okay.
then you can see, here's where the drainage is, here's where it's going.
It's up back.
Flipping back and forth is a little tougher.
Okay, anything
Cool.
for future reference, Mr. Engineer? Yes. Take a note, please.
With
Mr.
that,
Ballard in there?
I'm familiar with the, President Michelle, I'm familiar with the area because the Willowbrook home development is just to the east of that. And the Roars apartment complex is just to the south of this. It's right off 694 and 50th Street. And so I'm familiar with the area, but there's nothing to really preview at this point. There is a wetland there that the infiltration basin will, there's a sediment basin and an infiltration basin before it gets to the wetland. So
Very
think
good.
that's the main thing over there is making sure the wetlands protected.
No signage with skull and crossbones or anything.
Not yet.
Not necessary. Not yet. Thank you, sir. Okay.
With that, I'll move,
Yes,
approval of, permit number 2025-24.
I will second that motion. It's been moved and seconded.
Aye.
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 It is approved. Now we're gonna move on to our very next item. First, welcome to Mr. Brockman. I affectionately call him Little Joe, but there's nothing little about him. Just having fun. I want to thank you for being involved. We don't expect you to show up to meetings and, you know, getting our hair and annoy us or anything, but we know that, your involvement is very important. And we would like to see more of this with, our citizenry, you know, residents. So with that said, Mr. Brockman has applied to be a member of the District Citizen Advisory Committee. His application has been closed. Have all of the managers had a chance to look at it. Got, good background, good pedigree, we like it. Very good. So with all that said, the managers have anything to add? Or
Just had a quick question on the restarting the Cloverdale Lake Association. What's the history of that? Did it go for a while and then it's
It was loosely run early on in the lake. It was actually set up pre-HOAs. So there's a covenant that bonds all the owners and all the people in the Cloverdale HOA together that are supposed to take care of all the costs associated with the lake for the past probably 20 years or so. The Cloverdale Farms HOA has taken on the whole burden and also hasn't reached out to any of the other owners to get input on anything that's happening on the lake, or we're just trying to make sure there's clarity between all owners and get everybody on the same page, and make sure the lake stays good for another 30 years.
great?
Okay, good. That's important. Very good, sir. Do you have any other questions or comments? None, nobody? Okay. Well, with that said, without further ado, I would like to make a motion to appoint Mr. Joseph Brockman to the Valley Branch Watershed District.
Second?
Has it been moved and seconded?
Aye.
Right.
Aye.
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 You're appointed, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Joe, you don't have to hang out with us. I know you're busy. You got stuff to do, so thank you for attending. Please say hi to the family and mom. Okay,
Thanks, sir.
all right, you bet. Thanks again. Thank you for attending. Okay. Now, move on to our next item. Administrator engineer. Here we have the Legion Pond water level history. Motion could be made, so Mr. Engineer, lead us into this one, please.
Mr. President, managers, at the last meeting, the Talk family appeared before you and requested that the managers consider purchasing their home. Throughout that discussion, the managers had some questions. One of the questions was, what is the history of the water levels of Legion Pond? And so I pulled what's in the current Valley Branch Watershed District Management Plan and in the 2024 annual report. There's limited actual monitoring data on the water levels, but there is history that's reported in the plan of all the water issues and the various studies that have been done. At the last meeting, the managers discussed possibly authorizing Attorney Gallowitz to order appraisal on the property. And she did distribute a resolution if the managers would like to order an appraisal.
I have it, I will distribute.
I reviewed it, okay.
I know, yeah. So I take one down and pass it.
Thank you, Counselor.
Yeah.
Yes, sir,
A
go
little
ahead.
bit more background. The current purchase policy that the watershed district has says that in order for a single family home to be eligible for purchase, its lowest floor elevation needs to be lower than the district established 100-year flood elevation of the adjacent landmark basin. Our analysis shows that the Toft home is not below the 100-year flood elevation. It's slightly above the 100-year flood elevation. Of course, there's different envelopes of confidence whenever you calculate a 100-year flood elevation. The FEMA 100-year flood elevation that is currently mapped by FEMA is higher than the Toft home. So if you were to use that as the criteria, then the Toft home is eligible for the purchase to meet the purchase policy. Attorney Torseth has prepared a resolution that spells that out and says that the Toft home is higher than the Valley Branch 100-year flood elevation, but lower than the FEMA 100-year flood elevation, and also that the Tofts have experienced flooding.
I have one more thing to add to this. It's my understanding, please help me if I have this right. With all that said, there is still the issue of the septic system heights. That's not an issue with them.
Mr. President, the city of Lake Elmo connected all the homes to city sewer
Okay,
last year.
so that's not an issue anymore.
It's not an issue.
Okay, nevertheless, we're gonna go with this, have the managers, well, everybody's looking at it right now. Authorization.
Did I misspell it somewhere, or
No.
were you just saying that? Because it's entirely possible.
It's entirely possible. Just having fun.
Okay.
All right,
I had a question.
Please.
John, can you kind of lay out the difference between what our 100-year flood elevation is and FEMA flood elevation? The most recent one. I mean, as far as not the actual how much difference they are, but why are they different? And
Mr. President, Manager Armstrong, the FEMA 100-year flood elevation was established, I believe, in around 2010. And that was using the best available data at that time. And that the Watershed District was working with Washington County to submit that information to FEMA. The Watershed District had a elevation that was, I think it was 887.7 or something like that. And FEMA doesn't do to a tenth of a foot, they always round up. So they round it up to the next foot. And by doing so, therefore, the Toft home is below that elevation. The elevation that Valley Branch has looked at through the landlocked study with the Army Corps of Engineers and so forth is actually a little bit lower than that 2010 flood elevation. And that, again, I think it's just because of better data and more robust modeling effort.
okay. Now, has everybody had a chance to read this resolution?
And if I throw in a few comments.
yes,
Ma'am, please, please.
So sorry, there's a line on the top one. So originally Valley Branch approved a policy to purchase homes below the 20-year flood elevation because a lot of the homes in the Sunnybrook neighborhood were below the 20-year flood elevation, and a separate policy for homes below the 100-year flood elevation. In 2021, it was determined it doesn't make sense to have two policies. There's just one. So now it's below the 100-year flood elevation. The line on the first paragraph, I didn't have when I was drafting this, the date that it was approved. So that just needs to be added. The gist of this resolution says the purpose of that policy is to acknowledge that there were homes built below the 100-year flood elevation. They're subject to intermittent flooding. The purpose of that policy is recognizing that there are times when purchasing homes is the best method by which Valley Branch can follow its watershed plan, its goals, and its purpose. And then just stating that the district has been approached by the Toft trust to purchase this property. And then really laying out that the policy says that the district needs to determine it's below the 100-year flood elevation. Recognizing that the district has not, that the district engineer has not using the district's standard calculations. However, it is below the FEMA floodplain, and that the property owner has provided sufficient documentation to confirm that the property is subject to historical intermittent flooding, right? It's not a one-time event, it's intermittent historically. And then this authorization, and also there's a determination that the cost of a district project to alleviate intermittent flooding isn't feasible. So that would be something like all of Legion Pond, which the district just isn't doing. So then it's the resolution is to determine that the property may be considered for purchase and then to authorize an appraisal. So it's not saying the home will be purchased. It's not saying that the home is getting any other special treatment beyond what you would normally consider for any other home, but that it can be considered as part of that policy. So that's the walkthrough of the resolution. Are there any questions?
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Do we have any questions?
I appreciate you putting this together and lays it out very clearly, I think, and if anybody ever had any questions.
Okay,
Are we viewing this then as an exception as opposed to a change in our policy?
Correct, and that was intentional. We actually, John and I discussed possibly changing it for specifically Legion Pond to say that. I don't like completely modifying your policy. I'd rather have the policy be consistent and say there are outliers, and this happens to be one of them. I think it's an easier position to defend if there were any questions or pushbacks. That way it doesn't look, I don't think using the FEMA floodplain for the entire Legion Pond would be considered arbitrary, but I also don't want it to seem like, oh, well, we just made it work for Legion Pond, and oh, if we change it just a little bit for this one down the road, it'll work. I'm not saying that would happen, but I just don't want to have that potential slippery slope.
Okay.
okay.
The whereas that I think then that becomes really critical here is the second to the last, whereas the owner has submitted multiple documents.
Yeah.
Evidence and historical intermittent flooding of the property. And that, I think, gives us the spirit of what we're trying to do.
Yes, sir.
And I think is real important to have in there. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Savannah.
You're welcome.
Rick, would you like to make a motion?
I move the Board of Managers approve resolution 2501.
Okay. I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded.
Aye.
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 That passes. So what does that mean, John?
Mr. President, that would mean that Gallows Olson can work with the appraiser to coordinate with the top family to visit the property and develop appraisal and then report back to the managers. One other caveat, if the managers choose to eventually purchase this property, you do need to do another plan amendment. So yes, that would affect the timing.
Okay, very good. Ladies and gentlemen, sir.
When we coordinate with the appraiser, will the appraiser get the appraisal to the managers, or do we have to forward that on, or?
I can talk to you about that. In fact, I was about to sneak on over and I'll need a phone number or an email to pass on to the appraiser. The appraiser will contact you and make an appointment to come to the property and do the appraisal. And then the appraisal is actually sent to me because the district is ordering it and paying for it. And then the managers review it in a closed session. It's deemed confidential information. If they decide to make an offer to purchase, then that at that time, it'll be provided for your review. Perfect.
Mr. Top, ladies. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Okay. Now. Oh, you're gonna get that information.
I have to get the information.
She's gonna.
Everybody.
There's the problem. I talked to Lily. She does remember you. She said you're very nice.
And it is the.
Sorry, just pointed that out. Thank you. Yeah. That's all I have.
Oh, dry. Pretty dry. Earlier. it was- Yeah. You good?
We're good.
Thank you very much. And you want us to sign this later or?
I'll get it at the end of the meeting.
All right, thank you very much. Now, you folks don't have to hang around if you don't want to. You've taken care of our business, so.
Thank you.
We
Thank you.
sincerely appreciate your attendance.
Yeah.
We do what we can to make this matter good for everybody.
Thank you so much. Thank
We appreciate you, ladies. Thank you, Mrs. Fowler. Okay, thank you, Sakina. All right. Let's move on to our next item. 2025 Watershed Management Plan. Williams,
Thank you.
you're up, but I just want to mention something before. Let's see, we covered this. I like this. I was looking for things to pick on. But it's, this one's looking good. I don't know how the other managers feel about it, but please proceed.
Slowly but surely, we are working our way through the plan content. At the last meeting, you reviewed the first half of the narrative issues section of the plan. That includes the brief description to provide context to the different issues and then present the goals and tools that the district uses to address those issues. This is very similar, but it is the second half of that section. Last time you talked about the high and a couple of medium priority issues. This section addresses the remaining resource issues of wetland management, which is a medium priority issue, and then upland and natural area management, a lower priority issue. And then the two issue areas that are not resource related, they are the education and engagement topic, and then organizational capacity and effectiveness. When we were discussing goals earlier this year, or very early this year, I think the consensus from the managers was to include those separate sections rather than to include them for separate issue sections. And so they are a little bit different than the resource issue areas, but still presented as, you know, sort of challenges or opportunities for the district to tackle. So the goals are presented there, and as well as the tools. So again, this is presented just asking for comments, additions, edits, omissions, things that you didn't like about it, things that you'd like to add or emphasize. And,
I do have one comment on 2.6.1. Second paragraph, protection of natural upland areas. That was excellent. I'm just saying that.
oh, thank you.
Managers have anything?
President Marchand?
Yes, sir.
I just have a comment. I don't know if we need to modify, it, but section 2.7.1,
Okay.
where it's the public engagement aspect of it. I was thinking back to Angie Hong's talk at the Watershed meeting in December.
Yes.
And I just wonder if we shouldn't look for some opportunity for an event of some sort with community participation with Valley Branch Watershed District as the lead to provide visibility for us as a watershed district. And I'm not, I was kind of thinking through my mind what some of those might be and, you know, it could be a variety of things, but I just wondered if that, like I said, I don't know if anything needs to be modified, but I just wanted to make sure we captured that and got that in there in some way, so if we want to do it, it's consistent with our plan.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Along those lines, we could talk to, Angie about what we could do to have a more obvious presence at the county fair. Since Angie and the Conservation District are already there, could we put our own display up there maybe? And we'll introduce people to the Watershed District and who we are, what we do, what our leading issues are. Just the thought.
We typically volunteer
Yeah.
and we sort of piggyback and, I open my big mouth and I tell everybody, if you give me a foot long hot dog, I'll tell you everything about us and that sort of thing. But outside of that's not a bad idea. I don't know what it would cost us. John, if you could find that out, and also for signage, so that we can have our little spot, say, next to the mosquito control district or some of the, like Soils, Bowser, that's that with them. So that might not be a bad idea. And then, of course, we can populate it with volunteers. Yeah. Yeah,
President managers, when I first started working with Valley Branch had its own booth. Separate than Washington Conservation.
back in the day.
Back in-
So we can reconsider that. I would be more than happy to attend. I'll bring a fan. Yeah, yeah. But I think that's a good idea. I think we should do that because our presence, this whole thing with the education is kind of, it's building up. And I think we need to make a strong push, in agreement with what the managers have been saying. Like Don, of course, and Rick, who's been pushing this, and of course, everybody else that's involved. So
Mr. President,
yes, sir.
Greg and I had a conversation with Bowser Board Conservationists today. And, talking about some details of the plan and how to maybe word some of the goals and activities so that it gives the reader enough information of what the board plans to do, but it doesn't necessarily lock you into anything. And so I think this would be one of those things that you would say, for example, having a booth at Washington County Fair. So that,
Excellent.
so that you could do it, but
Yeah.
you don't.
Yeah, I like a little ambiguity. I'm not trying to be tongue in cheek. I just think that doesn't nail us down for something, but it actually gives us room to figure out something that we could do, some sort of involvement.
If maybe you'll want to do it one year, but maybe not the next.
Exactly. Patience. Take notes, Greg.
Yes,
Like you.
issues section, we could definitely note that community events, e.g. county fair, are an opportunity to engage.
What happened?
No, it's fine.
He ruined the Alexa or something.
Got a clue.
My son's smoke detector gave the low battery warning at 3 o'clock in the morning. this
Oh.
morning. Sure.
Yeah.
I didn't wake up, but one of the dogs was like freaking out about it. We figured it out.
That's the worst.
Did you have to climb?
I just took it. No, he's the half story at the top, so I could luckily reach it without having to get like a chair or something like that. No. Just ripped it off.
We got stories.
Worries about it later.
Yeah. Oh, my goodness. Wow. Okay.
Sorry.
Couple of comments.
Yes, sir. Please. Next.
One on wetland goals.
That would be,
On, let's see, that is 2.5, well, right below 2.51. It's on second page, or no, fourth page. the goals, 15A kind of says, if I wanted to, I could interpret that as being, that one of our goals is to establish wetland banks. And here again, maybe we don't want to lock ourselves into definitely, as a specific definite goal, but I think it's worthwhile highlighting in some way that wetlands, wetland banking is an important part of it, because under the circumstances now, I believe that if somebody has to bank wetlands, they're going into Isanti County to do it, rather than in our watershed district, which is really a concern and something that I think would be worthwhile doing if we're able to find the
Right.
properties
And
that function that way.
another reason that I brought up this thing about the loss of impervious surfaces, how things have changed, of course.
Mhm.
Gentlemen saw all this stuff.
Yeah.
It's significant and it'll affect our ability
Mhm.
to acquire wetland banking
Yeah.
properties.
Mhm. So maybe something about, seeking to establish, to identify and establish wetland banks.
Wetland banking is indirectly covered by 15A there, like that is one way to get to it. But we also have goal 15C, which is specifically to pursue opportunities for wetland banking too.
Okay,
Because I
I'm
think
sorry.
we did discuss it back when we were talking about issues, and I think it rose to the level where we wanted to,
okay,
or where you wanted to specifically call that out, just for the reason that you just mentioned.
yes, okay, that's my mess up. I should have
No.
missed that. Okay, anyway, it's an important
Reminder,
one.
whatever.
Glad it's there.
It just
Yeah.
reaffirms that we're sort of, you're still thinking the same thing.
Yes,
Good.
yes. The other comment I have is on 2.8.2 towards the end. And this is a little vague in terms of my comment. It just seemed like the first paragraph didn't really fit real well with the rest of it. It seemed kind of an abrupt transition there. Either by moving it down further or something, it seemed like,
Oh,
the
I agree.
no central office staff or in-house staff. While it's important, maybe it's not the first thing. Something
I agree
that
with
would
that.
make it,
Yeah.
I think that works well for us here.
Yes, sir.
But this
Good point.
kind of implies that it's front and center in terms of issues.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah.
We're explaining what we're doing, the first thing, spending by public dollars, blah, 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 and then right away, right? That's excellent.
Sure. That can move that, so it's not,
Prominent.
this doesn't imply that that's the primary point.
Mhm.
De-emphasize that.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
It probably ended up there to carry over language, I think, from the last plan, probably just where I started.
We're getting there. It's looking good.
Yeah, well, I liked it, but I'm glad Rick caught it. So, gentlemen, any other comments or concerns? Any kind? Even you, Mr. Inspector.
That's good.
I like to include.
Thank you.
Okay. Yes, sir.
One thing I thought of in 21B,
2.1B.
goal 21B on the, staff and funding capacity goals that I don't want to explicitly state
Oh, got it.
clean water implementations funds.
Add to that.
Maybe you could add it, yeah. Add it to the parenthetical there, maybe. We mentioned, Lower St. Croix and Watershed once plan above, so
Yeah, I think there's no harm in putting it as similar to like the state fairs, like as an example, so we're not limited to it, but just helpful to emphasize that, especially if we are pursuing grant funds, it's nice to have it specifically called out.
Any further items? Gentlemen? Good Brock. No, good.
We did meet earlier today with the plan TAC, so that's staff from the state review agencies and member cities, at council, counties, SWCs. They were reviewing the implementation section, which you guys reviewed in May. And from that discussion, one of the big ways was to schedule that plan TAC meeting. We heard some feedback from them today that I will be documenting with edits for the next time you look at that section. But one of the things that came up in our conversation with Michelle, the board conservationist, was that she offered to give a more thorough review of plan sections as they are developed, and provide informal comments. So if you are comfortable sharing like sections like this that you've reviewed, with the incorporation of the edits you've discussed, if you're comfortable sharing those as draft with Michelle, I will forward those to get her comments ahead of time. You don't have concerns with that.
Why not?
That's a good idea. We've met Michelle, she's been here, right? What's her role again?
She's basically your boss at Bowser. She's the board conservationist.
We like her. Tell her thank you.
And as John mentioned, one of the things we discussed was degree of flexibility and specificity with including items in the implementation plan. For example, with the Legion Lake and purchase issue that you guys discussed tonight, that we could include a line item in the plan with like a dollar amount that doesn't necessarily specify specific properties to be purchased necessarily, but just could be generally stated that Valley Branch will pursue, either flood proofing and or acquisition. And again, you wouldn't necessarily just say it has to be acquisitions versus flood proofing, but you could have a line item that generally says Valley Branch Watershed District will pursue flood proofing and or acquisition of flood prone properties consistent with its policy.
Mitigation.
Yeah. That way you wouldn't necessarily need a plan amendment every time you identify a property to do that.
That's very good.
Yeah.
That's the kind of thing that we'll do for next time.
Okay.
Aside from that, I don't think there were very many substantial comments about the implementation. We might tweak some of them. I'll come up with some draft edits to the narrative specifically about wetland management. Because they wanted a few things emphasized that are already in your rules, but also kind of reflected the priorities in the plan in terms of like the prioritizing in watershed restoration credit and the payment for restoration if you can't do that.
Okay. Please get feedback from Ms. Michelle. Anything further, gentlemen? Yes.
At what point in the process do you want to see minor edits? I mean, got someone here, but are we gonna at some point look at the entire draft and?
Yes, the intent is, probably sometime in August, we'll have a complete draft for you to review. If you'd like to provide them at that time, that's fine. If you want to provide them sooner than that, I'll take them either way. Whatever works best for you.
Whatever way, email, contact him.
Yeah, I mean, we probably want to work on an electronic draft, maybe.
Without a doubt.
So,
Yeah, we can share a SharePoint file from our, so that everybody can make track changes or add comments.
yeah,
That sort of
that'd
thing.
be perfect.
And you'll do those changes in red so that we can
They will, yeah,
You know, what we've added or deleted.
yep, they'll show up as track changes. You can navigate to them just by clicking like the next button.
The latest, greatest version of SharePoint is awesome for group editing. We can actually see other people on there at the same time and what they're doing and stuff. It's pretty, we used to use a different thing at ACR and it was the opposite, and it was such a pain in the butt. We went to SharePoint and it's so nice. Anyways,
Yeah, the only tricky part is now you gotta do the two-factor authentication with ours in order to get into it.
yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't know, I've just come to accept it, because
Yeah.
it seems like I have to create a 12-character password for anything these days.
No comment. But I'm sure thinking of something. Huh? Okay, so. I think that is sufficient for this evening. And we provided you with the additions, edits and comments at this point. Anything further, the manager can contact Mr. Williams or John and provide further information based on this or anything else. And as we tighten up on what we're doing, you'll present it. And we'll get there.
Yep.
Easy enough.
And yeah, like you said, this or anything that you've thought of that we've already covered, you know,
Not gonna happen.
like we've already reviewed the goal statements, but if you see them here again and want to tweak them to address something else or refine them, that sort of thing, you know, it's all on the table until you guys adopt it, and then some of the edits may require a plan then after you.
Yeah, have Miss Michelle, you know, everybody, we don't wanna. I'd like to avoid any further criticism because we omitted something or didn't follow through on something after we've established it, so. It's a good thing. Okay? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. We'll see you soon. Get to leave again during the day.
It does appear to be still light up.
Thank you,
Right
Greg.
now, it would be raining.
Thank you for your help, as usual. Okay. We're gonna go on to our next item. 2270 Manning Trail North. Okay. Mr. Engineer, what's happening here, sir?
Mr. President, managers, the property owners of this property that's located at the southwest, southeast corner of Downs Lake contacted me, and I believe they also contacted Manager Armstrong. My house is currently on the market, and they're curious if Valley Branch Watershed District might be interested in purchasing it. We reviewed it against the Watershed District's purchase policy, and the home is much, much higher than the FEMA flood elevation or the Watershed District's 100-year flood elevation. And because there isn't much land that is on the lot, that's not part of Downs Lake, there's an opportunity to do wetland banking either. And it doesn't provide opportunity to do any major significant stormwater treatment of runoff before it gets into the lake. So we are not recommending that the managers pursue purchasing the property, but we wanted to bring it to your attention.
Very good. I have a quick question. Mr. Bill,
Mhm.
share with us the nature of your conversation with those folks.
Yeah, what I think happened was they just, because they live in Lake Elmo, they went through our contact information for the various managers and they called me and I just referred them on to John immediately. It was, it really didn't get any further than that.
Sounds like it's pretty dry.
Smart move, I think.
Pass the buck.
Good enough. Yeah, that's what we do. Yeah, this seems pretty simple. Do the managers have any comments or anything they're curious about? So that's really simple.
I think it's straightforward enough. I will offer a motion that we.
Yes, sir,
Client
please.
request to purchase 2270 Manning Trail North in Lake Elmo.
I was second. It's been seconded, moved and seconded.
Aye.
Aye.
Hi.
That is approved. we decline the request. Okay, thank you, sir. Number 4. Metro Children's Water Festival sponsorship. Okay. Has everybody had a chance to look at this? I assume we have. Okay. We just gave, was it Bellwin or 5,000? Okay. And I don't know if I need to ask Rick or, and we have some more money remaining in that particular fund.
Mr. President, the memo
Yeah.
spoken out there, $18,000 in the reserve fund under public education. So if you take the $5,000 out that you committed to Bellman, you still have $13,000. Last year, the managers chose to give $1,000 to this Metro Children's Fund.
Okay. Well, how do the managers feel about this one?
We're talking about how important outreach and education is, and
Without a doubt.
so it might be good if we can, looks like, is this a this goes to Adriana, but it might be an opportunity for us to get a little bit of handouts in our Watershed district there.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
Okay.
I'm gonna move that we offer the same $1,000 that we did last year.
Second that.
Simple enough. It's been moved and seconded.
Aye.
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 Approved. $1,000. Thank you, Mr. Engineer. Okay. Our next item, this one's very interesting. I don't need to have, well, I could ask Mr. Armstrong, Mr. Bill, as I like to call him,
Mm-hmm.
to tell us about what's happening here.
Well, I think we've had discussions in the past about updating our photos for the website, for mailings, or anything we could use photos for. And I think that it would benefit the district to have some photos that were shot with professional equipment, something that's maybe more pleasing to the eye, showing what we're protecting, showing the projects that we're doing. And John and I had talked about it a bit, and I thought that since you have a photographer on the board, it might be worth doing that. Taking what I would envision is like it's laid out here, like a 6-month project. Go out and photograph all the major water bodies of the district, including creeks and things like that. As long as I could get access, to various areas. That's the one thing. I was even thinking maybe I could go out with Jeff sometime on his inspections and, obviously not building permit related things, but like the Silver Lake outlet, things like that, maybe, and do some photography down there.
And you're gonna make the photos look like we're in Fiji or something?
Yeah.
I've seen your hand.
I'll have Jeff in a bikini stand by the outlet and, yeah. No, we'll just, something like that, do it in, I probably, that'd be a portion of it, but do it in good light, doing everything, just so it looks more professional and maybe, and it has an educational component to show what we're protecting. And yeah, I figure I can, maybe, it's quite a jump down from what I normally charge, but I'm doing for the district and I think over.
You're too
6
kind, sir.
months,
Yeah. Holy cow.
But obviously abstain from any vote on it because I'm bored. I don't want to give any, you could go out and talk to other photographers as well. I mean, I'm certainly not the only one in town, but.
So I know something about this and the cost, of this sort of thing. We just did the wedding picture, so. Yeah. It can be very high. Sir,
Just 2 quick comments. One is, it's a bargain for us to do this. And the other one is, I was impressed by the agreement. It almost looks like it was drafted by an attorney.
yeah. How convenient, huh? Ironclad. Okay.
Yeah, and on that, I mean, generally, the artist, the photographer does retain copyright. I mean, if for some reason I wanted to use the photos for something else, I would hope that I could, and then, obviously, the district can use them for whatever purposes it wants.
See. But yeah, it's not like Getty Images or something. Yeah. Okay, this seems simple enough.
Minor item,
Yes.
it looks like a typo in the first line of the agreement.
That could easily
The
be.
contractor shallow. I think it
Shallow.
should be shall.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Anyway,
Just like Suzanne, I went to law school, so I'm screwing up those things.
Well,
still sign this with that's the typo.
It'll fit almost.
Nice. Okay. If there's nothing further, I'd like to go ahead and make a motion.
second.
Yeah. Approve the service agreement between Valley Branch Watershed District and William Armstrong for 6 months of photography services. It's been moved and seconded.
Abstain.
Aye.
Aye,
Aye.
Aye.
very good. That is approved. Make it so, sir. We're looking forward to it.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Next item. Susanna, you're up.
so the item I have in the packet is a license. So this was discussed at the last meeting. I didn't ask for approval because it was the first time you'd seen it and discussed the concept, right, that that MinDOT has asked to use some of the information developed for the watershed by its engineering firm. So this would be a license agreement. No changes have been made. We discussed some potential changes, but I believe it after the during the last meeting determined that the agreement as drafted would be okay, but wanted to give you the 2 weeks to review, think about it. I didn't get any questions, but if you have any, I can entertain them now. And if you're comfortable with the document as drafted, then I would ask for a motion to approve it.
Yes, sir, go ahead.
One comment, I'm fine with the agreement as it's written, but I just would ask that in the cover letter that transmits this to MinDOT, that we spell out in there that there will be no Valley Branch Watershed District technical assistance to go along with that data. That way John can point to that when they call him up and ask him
Right,
a bunch of questions that are gonna take a bunch of his time.
gotta turn on the meter. We can get that. Thank you. I did not notice that.
One question that I have.
Yes, sir.
Is the information, or is it possible that the information that MinDOT will be generating from it, something that would be of value to us? And does the agreement lay out that, I didn't see it in there, will we be able to have the information that they develop out of it?
There,
So it's kind of two questions.
Yes, sir.
I would think their information would be in the public domain, and we could do a data request together.
Yeah, that's real possible.
Personally, I question what they'll be able to do with the data. The model that Valley Branch and BART use for Valley, it's so complex and so comprehensive. I think it's probably more than they're expecting. And they'll, I don't know if I could be wrong on that, John, but I think they're gonna have trouble dealing with it.
We're not poking fun of MinDOT.
No, and I'm not either.
No.
It's just, this is something you gotta, it's, you gotta be with it from the beginning.
I understand that. The only item I had was on section 1.7 errors and omissions. MinDOT timely will advise, is that an appropriate sentence? I get it on there, no big deal.
Was a good flip drop it.
You did.
Will
Yes,
will
ma'am.
kindly advise.
Yes, ma'am.
I concur. That's a more grammatically comfortable statement.
Thank you, ma'am. Do the managers have anything else?
I'll make a motion to approve the license agreement between Valley Branch Watershed District for hydrologic and hydraulic models and related files with MinDOT.
So, yes.
With the condition that when it's transmitted, that the cover letter spell out no Valley Branch Watershed District technical assistance to
Excellent.
support the data.
I will second that motion. It's been moved and seconded.
Aye.
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 Very good. That passes. Good stipulation there. Thank you, sir. Yeah. Thank you, Susanna. You're gonna need some,
I'll get it at the end with the resolution signatures.
you have your particular copy of this.
I do. I printed it out special.
You're awesome. Okay. Mr. Brower.
Yes, President Lynch, our managers in the packet, there was a report. There are some updates. Obviously, we've had a little bit of rain this week. I had over 4 inches in the last 48 hours in Aston. I'm not sure what everybody else has had, but things are pretty saturated. I've been driving around and checking some sites, and Silver Lake outlet, the algae blooms are gone, Rick. They've flushed through the system. And I checked it last week and I checked it again today, and it's running, strong. So that's pretty well flushed your algae blooms out at this point. So I think that's good. I think you saw in the report, I was out last week in a previous rainstorm. I was back at the springs of Lake Yamo. The managers remember they've been requesting us to close out that project, but we kept finding water running underneath the retaining wall under the Tesla property.
Oh, yeah.
Last fall, I believe they went in and lined one of the storm sewer pipes and then showed us documentation that it was repaired. I went out during a rainstorm and the water was running under the wall again, down the slope and into the catch basin on Tesla's site. So, Engineer Hansen did communicate with them that, we're not gonna close the permit until they resolve this situation. And now they're talking about lining more pipes apparently, and I thought, well, why didn't they do all of them to begin with? But anyway, so that one is ongoing, until they show that they've actually stopped the running of the water. And also they should repair the erosion on their neighbor's property. They should restore that slope. And it's interesting, there's a catch basin at the bottom, right where it runs in the parking lot of Tesla. And when they were building the parking lot, the contractor put drain tile in there because they had so many problems with water on that hill. Well, even when it's not raining, there's water in that drain tile because I can see it empty into the storm sewer. So they've got some kind of issue going on there, and this could take a while. So stay tuned on that one.
You bet.
In Meadows at Pasture Ridge, I think you probably saw my report that they had a breach in the protection of the south side, that it's on Manning. And on the south side of this development, there is a park that's a Woodbury Park. And there's 2 wetland ponds, one on the south side, one on the west side. And they're really, Karen Wold in the past had really determined that they were really pristine wetlands, very small, very clean. I don't think they're very shallow. Well, the one on the south side has been totally turned into mud brown because of the work being done, the soils on the site are all clay. So we're not seeing a big bunch of sediment run into the wetland, but we're seeing the turbid water, the brown water is running right through the silt fences. And I mean, they had as many as 3 of them out in one area, was running right through them. I've been tag teaming with Aaron DeRusha from the Conservation District.
Yeah.
He inspects for the city of Woodbury, so we've been comparing notes, and he was out there in the rain yesterday and I was out there this morning meeting with the contractors. They did self-report themselves that the duty officer is a breach. So that'll go to the MPCA, so they did follow protocol. They were out there working today to try to pull material back from the silt fence. We have a meeting on Monday with the city and with the engineer and with the builder to try to resolve this. One of the issues they had last week that I wasn't aware of is that they were actually dewatering part of the site to the wetland, which is a no-no. So that's how initially the wetland turned brown. So then we got on top of that. Well, then we had all this rain and same thing happened again. So I'm not sure. I mean, this is a question for Karen Wolf for the Wetland Conservation Act. Is there something to be done later on with this wetland? Can it be restored in some way? Are there things that can be done? I've just told them, stay away from it. You know, don't go near it, stay away, put as much protection as you can. Let the experts figure out if something can be done. Maybe it'll settle out. It's such a small pond, I just don't know if it will, but you know, it's possible. And usually when you have a bigger wetland pond, you know, dilution is the solution and it could settle out, but it's a small pond, so there's a pretty big impact there.
If we potentially require any repairs in the future, they're responsible, right?
They would be responsible when something maybe get issued by the Wetland Conservation Act, and John can jump in here and help me out, but I believe they can issue restitution orders, they can issue fines, a number of things, so they have a lot of clout with that, as well as the MPCA. So I'm not quite sure who takes the lead on that, John, is it the WCA or?
Mr. President, Managers, when it comes to the wetland impact, it would be the Wetland Conservation Act. The TAP would make some findings and report to the managers. As far as improper construction activities, that would be PCA.
Okay, we just want to respectfully have them comply.
And we've documented between myself and the city, we've documented it, and also Karen Wold is aware of it as well. We've made her aware. It's a difficult site to get through. It's the mud is like you literally almost have to have ski poles to try to walk back in there. It's so bad. I almost lost my boots today.
Even waiters.
I'd be a little worried, like the waiters would get pulled right off of you, but yeah, it's pretty bad. You have to be creative on how you get back there. So anyway, just that's kind of like one of the major things that probably happened this week during the storm. And it's really those clay soils allow that brown water to just flush right through the silt fence. And it's a huge impact. You know, where it's gone out in the ditch along Manning, it's all grass, so it all, you know, gets taken in and it's okay out there, but a wetland pond, it's a pretty big impact.
Jeff, we don't want anything to happen to you.
Oh, yeah, no, I'm careful. I'm careful. One other note.
Yes, sir.
I believe President Marchand, you had a call from a resident, a contact from a resident out by
Jack Smith, I believe.
and also Engineer Hansen about a
Yes.
complaint about some construction out near the
Golf course.
golf course.
Yeah.
I did go out there yesterday.
Oh, thank you.
Yesterday was pretty difficult because it was pouring down rain, so I
Oh, yeah.
couldn't really see what was going on. Today I actually got back in there again, another difficult site to get into. That there's a housing development called Elliott Crossing, which is in Browns Creek Watershed. But it's right on the border, so there's a portion of that that does drain to Valley Branch. The rest of it is Browns Creek, but they hold the permit on it. And John was in contact with the their executive director to ask, I asked that their inspector go out on site because there's some issues from 75th Street. Yeah, there's some issues with erosion out there and, or just protection. But it is not something, it's not one of our permits. And so I don't know what follow-up needs to happen with that resident, but, it's not a project in our watershed that would impact, it wouldn't impact that homeowner, I believe, lives on, was it 67th Street?
Is he on the edge or is he in?
He's up high,
across the street,
probably
yeah.
can see down, he could probably see the construction
Yeah.
from his backyard. Some of those houses are way off the road, like where they live, and so they could probably see that construction project because they're at a pretty high elevation.
Did you physically talk to him?
No, I
Okay.
didn't, no, I didn't talk to him.
Yeah.
I did drive through the Sunnybrook area today just to kind of, you know,
Yeah.
for old time's sake, to see. the issue. I'll put it that way, but.
How's it looking?
Well, the water was running into the lake, not anything unusual. The Beaver Dam water is backing up a bit. And the neighbors are working together to try to resolve that. So nothing for us to worry about at this point.
Okay, and the young man with the two driveways, I forgot the gentleman's name.
Yeah, no,
Susanna might remember.
yeah, no issues over there. And I see he paved his, the driveway to the new home. Now it was
What do you pay?
kind of half, it was half paved and half gravel, and I see that he's finished paving it, so it all looks good. No water was running through the ditch. That's kind of usually our telltale sign that the ice cube trays are starting to
Yeah.
run over, and there's nothing running over there at all, but we've had a lot of rain, so that area usually in the past was impacted quickly. So there's a lot of capacity over there.
But they haven't been impeded in any way there, okay?
No, everything's fine over there, so, and in the meantime, just checking some of these infiltration basins to see if they're working, so. If it ever stops raining.
Very good, sir. Do the managers have any questions?
Couple things on the Roars
Yes.
apartment. It says that the infiltration basin isn't functioning. What's going on out there?
So that's been dragged, they finished that project last year, there's an infiltration basin on site. The site, and it's an issue with, well, the design or the soils within the infiltration basin, the water just sits there. It's supposed to soak in, it doesn't, it hasn't been dry since spring. So at some point, they're gonna have to go in there and rework it in some way. I think we've notified them it doesn't work. It's up to their engineers and their contractor to develop a plan and come up with a way to do it. From my viewpoint, watching the construction of that project, they use that area throughout construction as their holdout for all stormwater, mud, sediment. It was a mud hole throughout construction. And they said, well, we'll come back later and finish it. Well, they created a mud hole, and now, surprise, surprise, it doesn't really infiltrate, even though they took material out of there. So there's no drain tile or anything in there. It's just a straight, it's supposed to be a sand basin, sand bottom that infiltrates, and we'll just hold their permit open until they comply. So, and I haven't heard anything from them. I've met the Alliant Tech folks out there when they've been out there, because they've been monitoring the water levels on it. They've got a stake in there with markings. So I've seen them out there and we've discussed it. And so someone's gonna have to come up with a plan and implement it, and hopefully it'll work.
The other thing I had was just on Cimarron, driving by there on the way here. Do we know what's going? You heard anything about the pond level over there and possible?
I haven't. I mean, I don't know. I know they had sandbagged some stuff earlier, but I haven't. I mean, was it last year or something? Last year.
Or something.
So I know that the Oakland Middle School is actually going off septic and going on city sewer, because I have a permit for, they're gonna cut in off of 10th Street. If you've driven down that way, you'll see the big clearing.
Yep.
Well, they're coming down to bring all the city services in through to Oakland. So that septic system will be gone if it isn't already.
Where's that pipe coming from?
It comes across the street from the other part of Royal Oak.
Oh,
There's a lift station on the, across the street.
Right.
At that southern entrance.
Yeah, yeah.
So there is city sewer and water over there. As far as Cimarron, I don't know.
Is it?
That'd be a good Met Council question.
Oh, whoa.
A city Lake Campbell question.
Is it a simple jump to, get sewer from, excuse me, the sanitary sewer system from there into Cimarron? Seemingly.
Mr. President, I don't know. I don't know if the lift station has the capacity for Cimarron.
Okay.
The original plan was that the sewer would come up through like the old drive-in and
Oh,
work its way
right.
north from there and kind of tee off from there. They're also adding sewer to the new Lake Elmo Elementary School that'll be under Lake Elmo Avenue.
Right.
And when Vice President Guerra and I met with Commissioner Cox, that was one of her questions was what's going on with Cimarron and if there's been any activity to solve that potential disaster if there's a sewage system becomes flooded. And I provided her the notes that from the meeting that Treasurer Gellman, Manager Armstrong and I attended last summer at Washington County. The conclusion of that meeting was basically the best thing to do would be to try to get them connected to sanitary sewer. It's not the way the financial structure is set up. It would not be a cheap endeavor to do that here.
Just a follow-up question on that, and I don't expect that you know the answer, but let's say they do move ahead and get city sewer and water in there. Then what happens to the old plant? Is that a PCA thing where there's a cleanup of that site, right? There's the cleanup of that sludge pond and
Quite possibly.
what happens to that, right? Once they're done, they can't just walk away from it. They have to do something.
As for the measures, they have a permit with the pollution control agency to use those lagoons as their sewage system. That permit is very old and PCA apparently hasn't had staff to work on updating a permit and creating a new permit. At the meeting that we had last summer, the group thought that when that permit comes up for review and comment would be a great time for all the entities to consistently say, no, you're not going to continue to use Rose Lake as your lagoon. You need to connect to sanitary sewer.
Good. Yeah, you'd have to change the name to Typhus Pond or something. Oh, my goodness. Okay. Well, this is all good to know. Yeah, thank you, sir, for beating on that. I don't know, if we have to make a motion, but if you need some waiters,
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah.
It's some good ones.
mud snowshoes.
You be careful. Be careful. I've done that kind of stuff for my little activities, and I think some of that is so dangerous. You know. When I get up to my waist, I'm done. Oh, no. If the dog ain't going in there, I'm not going in there.
Well, if it's water, it's one thing, you know, if it's, mud and quicksand, that's another thing.
Yeah.
Not that we have quicksand, it's pretty deep.
I've never had to experience that. Okay. Are there any further questions or comments for our inspector? Not hearing any. I thank you for your report, sir. Okay. Managers. Meeting with the Ramsey County Commissioner, Kelly Miller. Before we get into what I may have said. Rick, share something, please. What did you?
I was real pleased with the meeting. Commissioner Kelly Miller is a very enthusiastic person. She seems very interested in the issues that we were addressing. And, looked at or commented that, if we can work together, she offered that as being something she was very interested in, and that was reciprocated by our president. The chloride issue, we've spent a fair amount of time talking about chloride pollution and the efforts that we're looking at making to be able to reduce chloride pollution.
Very good,
So
sir.
I was pleased with it. It was good.
I got us off to a rocky start. Miss Miller is, young, and I thought that her assistant was the commissioner. So I said hello to the commissioner. She goes, no, 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 I'm the assistant. That's the commissioner. Anyway, she was okay with that and clarified that. We sat down and Rick was essentially our point man on this. But one thing that came up that I really appreciated from them is, and they're going to acquire information from us. And we'll figure that out to minimize any hassles, but she's apparently creating a newsletter. And our involvement in that newsletter is going to be very good because it provides information and education. So she seems quite proactive for the young lady that she was, you know. We also talked about her cats and stuff like that. But it was very pleasant, and again, Rick brought up some good points, and they addressed them, and they're very interested, and I think that they'll help us, and we'll help them. So we want this, you know, symbiosis, whatever you want to call it. So I was quite pleased with the way the meeting went. I hope they were. You didn't get any feedback that was, no, good, thank you. Okay. Yeah, that was interesting. No, no, I'm not her. And I almost called her John Travolta. I go, no, you're not John Travolta. She is. That's an old joke. Sorry. Okay. I'll stop. The Minnesota Watershed Tour. Sir, first I was at ride.
Oh, the drive wasn't bad at all. Little traffic, and I got to go through my old stomping grounds on the western part of the Red Lake Indian Reservation. I'm doing any fishing.
Oh.
But yeah, the drive was nice and smooth, so. Yeah, much more manageable. Dave Ziegler from right at the retreat, she saw.
99 bottles of beer.
The tour was really excellent. We had fantastic weather, and the Red River Valley has always been kind of like an ecological black box to me. When you hear it stated that it's the flattest place on earth, it's the flattest place on earth.
Really?
Managing water up there is a serious challenge.
Lake Agassiz, Mathis, yeah.
Exactly, yeah, and there's actually a lake, it's a WMA now, but there's actually a Roseau Lake, which is a small depression on the bottom of Glacial Lake Agassiz. And the early settlers actually tried to drain and farm it, that didn't go very well. I know it's a very large wildlife management area, being co-managed by the DNR and the Watershed District and other partners. Pretty cool. Plenty of clean water partnership signs up here and there, various projects. You know, the 2002 Roseau flood was quite an event, like 6 feet of water throughout town. Wow. So when that town floods, the whole town floods because it's so damn flat. So they built a massive flood conduit around the city that would shunt the water from the Roseau River around town and then downstream. The watershed is quite interesting because the watershed starts in Canada, comes into the US, and then the Roseau River goes back into Canada before it spills into the Red River. So it's a very interesting part of the state. Yeah,
So this around town, it's not a levee.
no, it's not what, they do have levees in town in some spots.
Okay.
And those were created in urgency in response to what happened in 2002 in case there were follow-up events, so, yeah. Yeah. Neat stuff. I mean, I think it's, you know, the problems in that region are so different than what we deal with.
Yeah.
But it's still interesting to go see it.
Of course.
It just says it's good for people in that region, Region 1, I believe, or Region 2, to even come to the metro and see what the watershed districts in Region 3, what they have to deal with, right? So
Yeah.
I think that cross-fertilization of experiences among numbers is a good thing, so. Yeah, it's good.
to see Miss Jan.
Yes, the board meeting went very well. The new process for doing resolutions seems to be working really well. We're close to a final resolution package already, which the whole membership will be able to sign on to the special meeting in late August, which will be virtual only, to review and do final approval on the resolutions package. Then we'll take that and we'll develop a legislative platform.
Oh, nice.
And there's more stuff brewing on chlorides, so they're starting to,
Good.
it's gonna try to start to think about what does a regulatory framework for chlorides, so what might that look like? And how might it work? There's a, 9 Mile Creek is sponsoring a meeting on July 7th
Down here.
on chlorides. There's just a few people invited. It's, I don't know whose meeting it even is. It's not Minnesota Watershed's meeting, so I was trying to find a way to sneak in there, but
Sneak in,
yeah, I'll see, whatever. So,
see if you got room for us. If it's worthwhile, you get more information on it.
yeah. I could maybe contact somebody over, you know, the administrator at now.
Erica?
Yeah.
I can't pronounce her last name. Erica's her first name.
Wasn't she here one time?
No.
She never been here.
Our engineering represents 9 Mile Creek Watershed District, so I'll
How
talk to Jen
convenient.
Kiefer. She's the engineer for 9 Mile. She
Okay.
might be. I mean,
Ours, their engineer. Okay. Yeah, okay.
Like that. Okay. Any questions or comments about the summer tour? How was the drive back?
Fine, we didn't hit any precipitation until, I don't know, the salt was involved.
Any grounds?
I saw some cheptails actually. Also, that part of the state is where they grow the biggest whitetail bucks by far.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Have they had the kind of precipitation and cold that we've had? I haven't checked in what's going on in northern Minnesota.
I don't think so. I think, you know, like the Rosal River everything looked quite low and nothing looked like it was, you know, I don't think it didn't look like they were in a bad drought. Stuff looked green, the forest looked healthy and all that, but there wasn't an excess amount of water on the landscape either, so,
Excellent.
yeah.
Okay. All's well. Now, let's discuss our future business. Watershed District meeting in Baytown, July 10th and July 24th. Will we have a quorum? You won't be here for the 10th.
Well, I will be,
Okay. We're all good. Okay, that's squared away.
I think I will be.
Lake McDonald Water Quality Meeting with Lake Shore owners. I certainly want to attend that. John, could you please send us a reminder?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes, sir, go ahead.
You're right, the 10th is my wife's retirement party.
Oh.
How could I have forgotten that?
Oh,
She's expecting me to actually duck out early, so, but I think we should determine a quorum without me. So I think we're okay.
we're gonna go up there and visit too. Tell her for her long lost pals.
Sure.
Yeah.
I'll get you an invite, stop in.
It's a thought.
Yeah, it's on North Town St. Paul.
I might put on the Gate Buffalo.
Yeah,
John, beyond the reminder for the McDonald Lake, could you also just send us any sort of just background? Because I was thinking of attending as well, but I'd like to be able to speak from a position of knowing what I'm talking about, so. Any sort of information you have.
That would be great.
it might be fashionably late. Because my fishing club holds their July meeting at Thornbrook or something. And,
Flying tires or whatever.
oh no, it's a huge ski show. Yeah, they close the doors and they give us 20% off, so I just have to do some shopping.
I'm with you. Yeah, guys have to shop too.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Um,
That's my motto, guys have to shop too.
this has nothing to do with anything. Do you know who Muskie Jesus is by chance? You heard that?
I haven't, but I wouldn't be surprised if some knucklehead that called himself that.
Yeah, there's I got some pictures you need to look at this back. He talks to them or something and they're this big and they're on the St. Croix. Yeah, unbelievable stuff. Okay, sorry about that.
That's right.
The St. Croix River Workshop on the Water, Taylor Falls Scenic Boat Tour, Taylor Falls, Wednesday, July 30th. Do we have to register for that, or how does that work? Okay. Could
Yes,
you,
Mr. President, if any managers would like to.
We are
attend, I can
interested.
register.
we are interested. Are there any, yes, photo op on top of that?
There we go.
I normally like that.
It's out of the district, but-
Okay,
But at the message.
Rock climbing.
all right, John, please send out, Mr. Brock, would you be interested in that sort of?
Yeah, I gotta check my calendar, but.
Yep,
Yeah,
I would as well.
not gonna be on a walkabout of sorts. No, okay.
Till September.
You guys are unreal. Got nothing on you. Okay.
Yeah.
Please let us know and keep us up to date in the registration, but we're very interested in that. Make sure I phone my boss. Ask her, yeah. Okay, thank you very much for that. The other items, this is wonderful what you provide us with. And the managers, of course, need this education. We can find things out on our own. Since I've been on the Watershed District, there's many, many things that I've learned, and I'm sure the other managers and with your backgrounds, there's wonderful things. The sediment phosphorus release and activation methods. Thank you for that. That's excellent. I don't know if that goes on our website. Can it? It's not a big deal. Okay. It's a thought. What do you think, Rick?
Yeah, I was thinking I'd forward it to, some of the officers in the Silver Lake Improvement Association. You know, if
That
they're
would
gonna
be a
put it
great
up on the
idea.
website.
Please,
You know,
yeah.
because they had the interest in it and I think that would be good information, you know.
Right.
This is in regards to what?
It came up in connection to the Philemus, algae.
Oh, yeah.
And
So, you know, when this
then we
came
got
up,
into,
yeah, because I just seemed like there was one point in time when I was just doing my Norfolk stuff, I was getting bombarded by all these things, and it just seemed like so much of it smacked of snake oil to me. Not that this is, but so when I looked at it, my first thought was, well, it's this brand new technology. What's the experience with it? So John's reply on it was kind of what I had anticipated. That it's brand new and we really know little about how it performs. So I would suggest that we probably not really endorse it until that experience comes forward and we start to see field performance on it, maybe.
No, sir, this was FYI,
Yeah.
but it
right,
gives us a,
right,
it gives us a background.
yeah. But if we apply it to lake associations or supply it to lake associations, they may then for endorsement if we do that. That's what my concern would be.
Good.
no, I sure didn't read it, read the, the materials that way as
Oh,
being
you
endorsed.
present the materials to them as John
Yeah.
presented to us?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
that makes
Mhm.
sense, yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, and there's some actual pretty knowledgeable people, the president, she's got a good handle, Amber, knows quite a bit about her, that's her occupation, some of that area. But I think this balances things out and gives them
So
some
let's,
good, solid information that they
okay.
probably don't have yet.
The next item, the nanobubble technology. I attended that lecture at our December watershed. Whatever, the Minnesota watersheds. This is absolutely fascinating. And the DNR is talking about doing something in 2026. Young Joe was interested in that. And I said, just wait and see. I did not give him that flyer, but I will. Unless he's already aware of it, I will bring it up to him, but there's potential here, but also because of what could happen, we don't quite know if we can implement it and of course, what I mean is without having a background because of what it can do, it could be deleterious. It could cause some problems for for a lake, as you gentlemen are likely aware. Okay, that's all I had on that. But, John, that was beautiful. The impervious surface changes, again, further information. Thank you, Rick, for asking to throw some numbers at us. But we all see how this affecting us right now. But we can make, at least have commentary about how it's affecting our ability to purchase, or to, implement, the wetlands bank in our watershed. So, important as it is.
Yeah, I was real pleased with this set of maps. I think they do give us a quick way of understanding where the development is occurring and excuse me, the impermeable surfaces are. Which also has some implications for, the amount of, chloride being distributed in the area. It gives us some notion of that as well.
Okay, and then the last thing. The cost share project tracking. Thank you for that. This is with, let's see. Right. Alyssa. Okay, which is wonderful. I'm glad you're keeping track of this, but I made just a quick observation. 22% of these expenditures are over the $500 mark. And the ones that are equal or over to $5,000 is 14%. And of course, the rest is $500. We're gonna put something together coming up here. We will tighten that up about what we may or may not do about this to consider the future thought and what we want to do with our money regarding these projects and to again, that's a long discussion. So that's all I have on that, unless anybody has anything else. Okay. Now, on that bad time. So at this time, I would like to make a motion. Close our regular board meeting.
To suspend.
Just get it right one of these. I'd like to make a motion to suspend our regular meeting.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded.
Aye.
I.
Aye.
Aye.
That has been Okay, so I'm going to make a motion. To resume. I would like to make a motion to resume our regular meeting.
Second.
So moved and seconded.
Aye.
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 We are in our meeting. Okay. Right, there's, I think we're good to go. So I don't have to say anything about this.
Make that motion, please, and then there'll be one more for authorizing the transfer of funds.
Yes, ma'am, thank you. I would also like to make a motion to authorize the attorneys to make an offer to purchase as follows. 2790 Legion Avenue North for $460,000. 2832 Legion Avenue North for $430,000. 7081 Jocelyn Lane North for $590,000. 2814 Legion Avenue North, $510,000. And 2778 Legion Avenue North for $450,000. Do I have a second? Did I miss
May I
something?
throw in a friendly amendment?
Yes, ma'am.
That each offer includes $5,000 earnest money and a closing date on or before September 2nd.
Okay, I would also add that there's a $5,000 earnest money for each property that we are making an offer to purchase on. And the closing date on September 2nd,
On or before.
on or before September 2nd, 2025.
Second.
So moved and seconded.
Aye.
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 It is approved. Thank you, ladies. Okay,
One more motion on
Yes.
my revised memorandum that was given out tonight. On the second page
Yes.
of the sentence.
oh, yes, yes. See it, but proposed motion amendments, okay. So, finally, I move to authorize the transfer of $35,000 to Gallowitz Olson PLLC trust account for use in purchasing real property by Valley Branch Watershed District.
Second.
So moved and seconded.
Aye.
Aye,
Aye.
Aye.
it is approved. Thank you. We get out of this one, we're okay?
You can make the motion to adjourn.
I move it.
That was. Are you?
I gotta drive the things though.
Are you?
Second.
It's a moved and seconded.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye,
Aye.
Aye.
we are.